Hello and welcome to another riveting episode of Kachwerk, and this time taking a break from the rebuild so that we can finally set up my Ibanez RG baritone Floyd Rose lovely thing. The reason I've not been able to set it up yet is because some of the little Allen keys and some of the little nuts were stripped, and I finally managed to get a new set. So now finally we can get onto the business of actually getting the guitar set up properly. It was actually perfectly fine, but you know, tinkering with stuff is what we do. So I thought I'd do this video going through the process of a complete setup from start to finish. So obviously there's a bit of a system to it, a few things we need to do first, and then a few things we need to do last. So first thing, obviously, getting rid of the strings, getting everything a bit of a wipe down, and then we check the net to see if it's straight, we check to see if the frets are okay, just general kind of condition of what kind of things probably need to be done. Then once all that's done, you put the strings back on, do the action and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how far we're going to get in this video. I don't want these videos to be too long. So what we're going to do first is the guitar is now on the table, the strings are removed, and we are now going to start the process of making sure that the frets are level. The reason we do that is because this I've already checked the frets with the rocker, and there are very few problems here, so this can be done quite easily. Now, it is important to protect your fretboard, because once you get some scratches in there, it's just never the same, so I would suggest taping it up. So I'm quickly going to tape these things up, and then we're going to start the process of going over fret by fret and making them nice and flat and level. The first thing that we needed to do was actually to make sure that the fretboard was completely flat. Now, I've got one of these lovely guys, but because this is a baritone scale, this one only does the Fender and Gibson scalings, so I couldn't use that. So I had to level it with the truss rod by eye. And then once it was level, I started checking out with a ruler to see how straight it is, and it all looks just fine. So we can go ahead. This is now nice and flat, and now we can use the rocker and mark out the places which actually need some attention. So the easiest way to do that, I think we've already got a video up for using the fret rocker, is one of these guys. I'm sorry, this is not product placement. So anyway, we take this piece. So I'm about halfway through, and as you can see, in the meantime I taped up the fretboard. The tape is really good because it means you can be a little bit more into your work. You don't have to sit there and worry if you're going to be like scratching your fretboard. So doing this properly and preparing the fretboard well before this is really worth the time spent on it. So what's been happening now, up to the, I don't know, nearly 12th fret, I can see the dots, yeah, 12th fret, and these have now all been done. Now, as you can see, I clearly marked which ones are finished. You can still see the little black lines of where I marked the pieces that are that were high. So what I'll do is I'll quickly continue on the next one here, just to show you, because there's a couple of things that are important when doing the fret leveling which I've not mentioned in the previous one. Yeah, Bunday. There you go. So anyway, so what you do, as you know, with the fret rocker is you go over the ones, you put the fret rocker over 3, and you see if it can rock over those 3. Now this is a bad example because this one is perfect. It's that simple. Now what you need to remember about these things is they're extremely sensitive. That's why they're so easy and so good to use. They can really get your frets perfectly level. The slightest height difference will let this rock. Okay? So that also means that you don't want any dirt or any material under here or on the fret when you try and rock again. So what happens is, let's take the next one for example. So there, you can hear the rocking. So I'm going to try and fix that one. Firstly, the one side, the bottom side is fine, it's high in the middle, so I need to mark mainly the middle pieces. Okay, so now I'm going to obviously take this material away. Now because I've got the tape down, I don't have to worry too much about sliding and missing and hitting the fretboard because I've got it covered. Now this is where you need to be careful. Because you've been abrasing that, some of the shavings are lying on the fretboard, and you want to make sure that the side that you're testing with is absolutely clean, because even just a little dust can make it, can give you a false reading. So wipe it first before you try the rocker again. Always wipe it first, so that you know your reading is perfectly accurate. One of those little disciplines when it comes to trying to be perfect about these things. This one is kind of high, so we have got to really go for it this one. Slight bit in this piece here. When you get to a point where it's really just slight small pieces that still need work done, mark those pieces, because when you start abrasing you can clearly see that you're only abrasing that one little piece. You don't want to keep going over pieces that are already fine, because then you might go too deep. Remember, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. Once it's too deep, you're screwed. You've got to start all over again, and we don't want to do that. So now that they're all level, now they have like a, try and illustrate here quickly. The frets will now look like this, flat and then round. So this flat piece is not really what we want. We want a nice round kind of fret. So what we're going to do now is we're going to re-crown the fret. So we're going to take that off, and we're going to re-round it like that. And there's a couple of ways to do that. You can buy a fret crowning tool, obviously. They are only about 20 bucks, 30 bucks for something good. But I think I've got a slightly better solution, one I prefer to use. The reason is I've got a few different guitars and different fret sizes and jumbos and medium and all that kind of crap. So I make my own little crowning tool. You take a little rubber, you cut a V out that suits your fret. You take 400 grit, good 400 grit sandpaper, and you bend it in so that it fits nicely in there. You can see that. And then you've got a perfect crowning setup. And then all you have to do is nice, because at the same time now this will be polishing it, and we'll go with 400, then 1000, and then we will polish it with T-cut. This is a really nice way of getting a nice crown going, and as you can see, another reason why, if I didn't tape this up, we would have been in slight trouble. So there you go. That makes a nice crowning tool.